What would you give up to see your children smile at you for the very first time? If you're enjoying this story, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We love hearing from you. So tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Victor Stone had everything money could buy. His mansion sat on top of a hill like a castle made of glass and gold. He owned 10 cars, 3 swimming pools, and a helicopter that could take him anywhere in the world. But Victor Stone was the saddest rich man you could ever meet. His wife, Elena, was beautiful and kind. She wore expensive dresses and diamond rings that sparkled like stars. But she never smiled anymore. Not really. Her smiles were like painted pictures, fake and empty. They had 3 children, triplets, 3 babies born on the same day, at the same time, Lily, Rose, and Jasper. They were 7 years old now, and they had never seen their mother's face. They had never seen their father smile. They had never seen the blue sky or the green grass or the golden sun. All 3 children were born blind. Every morning, Victor would wake up in his giant bedroom and feel a heavy rock sitting on his chest. He would walk down the long hallway to his children's room and watch them sleeping. Lily with her soft brown hair spread across her pillow. Rose with her tiny hands curled into fists. Jasper with his peaceful face turned toward the window he couldn't see. Victor would cry quietly, making sure no one heard him. Elena spent her days reading books to the children. She would describe everything around them. The sky is blue like the ocean, she would say. The flowers are red like strawberries. The grass is soft and green like a fuzzy blanket. But how could the children really understand? How could they imagine colors they had never seen? Lily loved to touch everything. She would run her fingers over the walls, the furniture, her mother's face. Mama, she would ask. What do I look like? What do I look like? Elena would hold back her tears. You're beautiful, my darling. You have eyes like chocolate drops, and a smile like sunshine. But Lily would shake her head sadly. I don't know what sunshine looks like, Mama. Rose was the quiet one. She would sit by the window for hours, feeling the warm sun on her face. Sometimes she would cry without making any sound. Tears would just roll down her cheeks like rain. Jasper was the angry one. He would throw his toys and scream. It's not fair. Why can't I see? Why? Victor had taken his children to every doctor in the world. They flew to America, to Japan, to Switzerland, to Germany. The best eye doctors examined the triplets with their special machines and bright lights. Every doctor said the same thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Stone. There is no cure. Your children will never see. Their eyes didn't form correctly when they were born. No surgery can fix it. No medicine can help. I'm truly sorry. Victor spent millions of dollars. He called scientists. He called specialists. He even called people who promised magic cures and miracle treatments. Nothing worked. Nothing changed. His children remained in darkness. One cold evening in December, Victor sat alone in his giant living room. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered in lights and decorations the children couldn't see. He held a glass in his hand and stared at nothing. I would give it all away, he whispered to the empty room. Every dollar, every house, every car, everything, just to see them look at me. Just once. The doorbell rang. Victor frowned. It was 8 o'clock at night. Who would visit at this hour? The security guard at the front gate should have called first. He walked to the door and opened it. An old woman stood on his doorstep. She wore torn, dirty clothes that hung on her thin body like rags. Her gray hair was messy and wild. Her face was covered in wrinkles, like a crumpled piece of paper. She carried a crooked wooden stick and a small cloth bag. She was a beggar. Please, sir, the old woman said in a crackling voice. I'm cold and hungry. Could you spare some food? Maybe an old coat. Victor felt angry. How did this woman get past security? Why was she bothering him? Didn't she know he had enough problems? Go away, he said sharply. I'll call someone to give you money. Just leave. He started to close the door. The old woman put her stick in the doorway. Her eyes, which had seemed dull and tired, suddenly looked very bright, very sharp. very
sharp,
she could see right
like
through
she
him.
could see right
You
through
have
him.
3 children.
You have 3 children, she said
Victor
quietly.
froze.
Victor froze.
His heart began to pound.
His heart began to pound.
You have 3
You
children
have
who
3
live in
children
darkness.
who live in
The
darkness.
old woman continued.
The old woman
And
continued.
you would give anything to change
You would give
that.
anything to change
Wouldn't
that.
you? How do you know about my children?
How do you know about my
Victor's
children?
voice shook.
Victor's voice
Who are
shook.
you? The
Who are
old
you?
woman smiled.
The old woman
showing
smiled,
missing teeth.
showing missing
I know
teeth.
many things, rich
I know
man.
many things,
I
rich
know
man.
your heart is breaking.
I know your heart is
I know you
breaking.
cry alone at
I
night.
know you cry alone
I know
at night.
you blame yourself
I
for your
know you
children's
blame
pain.
yourself for your children's
Victor
pain.
felt cold all
Victor
over.
felt cold
like
all
someone
over.
had dumped
Like
ice water
someone
on
had
his
dumped
head.
ice water
What do you
on his
want?
head, he whispered.
What do you want?
Nothing
He whispered.
tonight, the old
Nothing
woman
tonight.
said.
The old
She
woman
turned to
said.
leave.
She
Her
turned
stick
to leave.
tapping on the ground.
Her stick tapping
But
on the
I'll
ground.
come back tomorrow.
But I'll come back
And
tomorrow.
when I do,
I'll bring you a
do,
choice.
I'll bring you a
A
choice.
very difficult choice.
A very difficult choice.
Wait. Victor
Wait.
called out.
Victor called
What
out.
choice?
What choice?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking
But the
about?
old woman kept
But
walking.
the old woman kept
She
walking.
moved slowly down
She
the
moved
long
slowly
driveway.
down the long
her
driveway.
shadow stretching
Her
behind
shadow
her in the
stretching
light
behind
from
her
the
in the
house.
light from
Victor
the house.
watched her disappear
Victor watched
into
her
the darkness
disappear
beyond
into the
his
darkness
gates.
beyond his
His
gates.
hands were shaking.
His hands were shaking.
His mind was racing.
His mind was
Who
racing.
was that woman?
Who was
How
that
did
woman?
she know about his
How
children?
did she know about his
What
children?
choice could she
What
possibly
choice could
offer?
she possibly
That
offer?
night, that
Victor
night,
couldn't sleep.
Victor couldn't
He
sleep.
tossed and
He
turned in his
tossed
bed.
and turned in his
Elena
bed.
asked him what
Elena
was wrong.
asked him
but
what was
he didn't know
wrong,
what to
but
say.
he didn't know what
How
to say.
could he explain the
How could he
strange
explain
beggar
the
woman?
strange beggar
How
woman?
could he explain
How
the
could he
weird
explain
feeling
the
in his
weird
stomach?
feeling in
Like
his stomach?
something big
Like
was about to
something
happen.
big was about to
Something
happen.
scary.
Something
that
scary.
would change
Something that
everything
would
forever.
change everything
In the children's
forever.
room down the
In
hall.
the children's room
Lily
down the
woke
hall.
up from a dream.
Lily woke up
Mama,
from a dream.
she called out softly.
Mama, she called
I
out
had a
softly.
strange dream.
I had a strange
An
dream.
old woman was standing
An
in
old
our
woman
room.
was standing in
She
our
was
room.
smiling at us.
She was smiling at us.
She said everything was going to change.
She said everything was going to change.
Elena kissed her
Elena
daughter's
kissed
forehead.
her daughter's
It
forehead.
was just a dream.
It was just a dream,
sweetheart.
Go back to sleep.
Go back
But
to sleep.
Lily wasn't
But
so
Lily
sure.
wasn't so
The
sure.
dream had felt
The dream
so
had
real.
felt so real.
So very real.
So very real.
Outside.
The wind howled around
around
the
the
mansion.
The trees bent
and swayed.
and swayed.
Dark clouds
covered the moon.
And somewhere in the darkness,
the old beggar woman stood at the
edge of the property,
staring up at the house
with her bright,
knowing eyes.
Tomorrow
would bring the
choice.
Tomorrow would test
everything
Victor
and Elena believed about love,
sacrifice,
and what really mattered in life.
Tomorrow, nothing would ever
be the
same.
The next day felt strange from the very beginning. Victor woke up with a terrible feeling in his stomach. The sun was shining, but the house felt cold and dark. At breakfast, the children were unusually quiet. Even Jasper, who always complained about something, just sat still and pushed his food around his plate. "Are you okay, my loves?" Elena asked, touching each child's face gently. "Something is coming, Mama," Rose whispered. "I can feel it in the air." Elena and Victor looked at each other with worried eyes. Children sometimes knew things that grown-ups couldn't explain, especially children who lived in darkness. Their other senses were stronger, sharper, more alert.
What would you give up to
noon,
see your children
the doorbell
smile
rang
for
again.
the very first
Victor's
time?
heart
If
jumped.
you're
If you're
enjoying
enjoying
the
the
story,
story,
please
please
like
who it would be.
share, and
Elena
subscribe
followed
to
his
this channel.
door.
We
She had
love
made her
hearing
tell
from
her
you.
everything about
So
the
tell
beggar
us in the
woman
comments
where
where
you're
you're
watching from.
from.
At first,
Victor Stone
had
had
everything money could buy, but now, hearing that
mansion
doorbell,
sat on
she
top of
believed.
a hill like a
Victor
castle
opened the door
made of
slowly.
glass and gold.
The old beggar
He
woman
owned
stood
10
there,
cars, 3
exactly
swimming
like
pools,
before,
and a helicopter
same
that could
torn
take him
clothes,
anywhere in the world.
Same wild
But
gray
Victor
hair.
Stone was the
saddest
crooked
rich
wooden
man
stick
you could ever meet. But her
His
eyes
wife,
seemed even
Elena,
brighter today.
was
They
beautiful
almost
and
seemed
kind.
to glow.
She
wore
wore
expensive
expensive
dresses
dresses
and
and
diamond
diamond
rings
rings
that
that
sparkled
sparkled
like
like
stars.
stars.
I told
she
you I
never
never
smiled
smiled
anymore.
anymore. Who are you?
Not really.
Elena
Her
demanded.
smiles were
stepping
like
forward.
painted pictures.
She was trying to be
Fake
brave,
and empty.
but her voice
They
shook.
had 3
What do you
children.
want from us?
Triplets.
The
Three
old
babies
woman looked at
born on
Elena
the same day,
strange,
at the same
bright
time.
eyes.
Lily,
I am
Rose,
someone
and
who can
Jasper.
give you what you want.
They were
most in
7
the
years
world.
old now.
I can
and
make
they
your
had
children
never
see.
seen their mother's face.
Victor gasped.
They had never
Elena
seen their
grabbed
father's
his arm.
smile.
Her
They
fingers
had never
digging
seen the
into
blue
his
sky
That's
or the green
impossible,
grass
Victor said.
or the golden sun.
Every doctor
All
says
3
there's no
children were
cure.
born blind.
Their eyes
Every
can't be
morning,
fixed.
Victor would
Doctors
wake
don't
up
know
in his
everything.
giant bedroom
The old woman
and
said
feel
softly.
a heavy
She
rock
reached
sitting
into her
on his
small
chest.
cloth bag.
He would
and
walk
pulled
down
out
the long
3
hallway
tiny
to his
bottles.
children's room.
Each
and
bottle
watch
was
them
made of
sleeping.
blue glass and
Lily
filled
with her
with
soft
soft
brown
brown
hair
hair
spread
spread
across her pillow.
and move like it was
Rose
alive.
with her tiny
This
hands
medicine
curled
will
into
heal your
fists.
children. The old
Jasper
woman
with his
said.
peaceful face
One
turned
bottle
toward the
for
window
window he couldn't see. 3 drops
Victor
in
would
cry quietly,
sunrise
making
tomorrow,
sure no one would
heard
see
him.
everything.
Elena spent her days
reading books to the
children.
children.
Light.
She would describe everything everything. The sky is blue like the ocean, she would say. Victor felt the flowers are red like strawberries. The grass is green like a fuzzy blanket. But how do the children really understand? The old woman smiled. How could they imagine colors they had never seen? Lily loved always a price for magic. She would run her fingers over the walls. You must give up something valuable. Her mother's face. Something that means a lot. She would ask. What do I look like? What do I look like? Elena would. I'll give you anything. You're beautiful. $10 million, my darling. You have eyes. 20 million chocolate drops. Name your price. Smile. The old woman shook her head. Lily would shake her head. I don't want your money. I don't know what sunshine looks like. You have too much of it. Rose was the price. She would sit by the window for hours, feeling the warm sun on her face. Elena cried out. She would cry without making the old woman tears would just roll down her cheeks. I offer you three choices. Was the angry one. Was the angry one. He would throw his toys. Choose wisely. It's not fair. Because you cannot change your mind. Why can't I see?
Why?
Victor.
Why?
And Elena held hands. Victor had taken his children. They were both every doctor in the world. Choice number one. They flew to America. To give up your sight. To Japan. Both of Switzerland. To Germany. The best eye doctors examine the triplets so your children see. You live in darkness. Every doctor says the same thing. Elena made a sorry, Mr. Stone. Like there is no cure in the stomach. Your children will never see. Their eyes didn't form correctly. You give up all your money. No surgery can fix it. Every house. No medicine. Every car. I'm truly sorry. You become millions of dollars. You and your children will live on the streets. He called specialists. But your children will see the world around them. Magic cures and miracle treatment. Nothing worked. Victor's mind Nothing changed. His children remained in darkness. Choice number 3. Evening in December. Victor sat alone in his giant living room. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered in decorations. You will never see that child. He held a glass. Never hear their stared at nothing. I would give it all away. The other two children he whispered to the empty room. Every dollar. Every house. Every car. You can't ask everything. Just to see them look at me. Just once. The doorbell rang. The old woman's face didn't change. It was 8 o'clock at night. I didn't say the choice would visit at this hour. The security guard at the front gate should have always required sacrifice. He walked to the door and opened it. An old woman stood on his doorstep. Victor wore torn, dirty clothes that hung there is no other way like rags. The old woman's gray hair was messy and wild. Her face was covered in wrinkles, like a crumpled piece of paper. She carried a crooked stick and a small cloth bag. She was a beggar. She placed the 3 blue bottles on the doorstep. The old woman said in a together softly, I'm cold and hungry. Could you spare some food? Maybe an old. I'll come back at midnight. Victor felt angry. Old woman. How did this woman get past security? Walked away. Why was she bothering him? Didn't she know he had him stood frozen? Go away, said sharply. I'll call someone to give you money. Elena whispered. Just leave. He started to close the door. But it wasn't a night in the doorway. The woman put her stick in the doorway. Her eyes, solid. Her eyes, when Victor picked them up, dull and suddenly warm in his hair, suddenly looked like they were very sharp. For the rest of the day, like Victor and Elena barely children. You have 3 children. They moved through the house. Victor froze. His children asked his heart began to pound. How could they explain 3 children who live in darkness? How could they tell their babies about this impossible, horrible choice? You would give anything to change that. Elena finally said about my children. How do you know about Victor's voice shook? Victor's voice shook. Who are you? We become blind. The old woman smiled. The old woman smiled. But then we can't see that. I know many things. Victor said. I know many things. I know your heart is breaking. I know your heart. I know you cry alone at I know you cry alone. I know you blame yourself. I know you blame yourself for your children's Victor pain. Felt at least Victor felt cold. Like someone had dumped ice water. What do you want? But they'll have to take care of us. Nothing tonight. Nothing tonight. They'll have to guide us. She turned to leave. Help us. She turned to leave. They're just children. Stick tapping on the ground. Too much responsibility. And when I do, they argued back and forth. I'll bring you a choice. A very difficult choice. Choice seemed impossible. Victor called out. Becoming blind themselves seemed no choice. What are you talking about? But also, the old woman kept seeing their children. She moved slowly down the long driveway. Her shadows stretching behind her in the light. Victor watched her disappear. They would still watch the darkness but the children would suffer. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. His mind was racing. Who was that woman? Who was that woman?
How did she know about his children?
And the third choice,
What choice could she possibly
That wasn't even a choice.
Victor couldn't sleep.
Victor couldn't sleep.
Unthinkable.
And turned in his bed.
Elena asked him what was wrong.
Elena asked him at all.
He didn't know what to say.
He didn't know what to say.
We just won't.
How could he explain
We'll keep our children as
How
they
could he
are.
explain the weird feeling in his stomach?
Victor reminded her
big was about to happen.
Every day,
something
scary.
See it.
Something
scary.
would
Change.
Something that would
change
everything.
In the children's room down the hall.
In the children's room
Lily's
woke up
from a dream.
Lily woke up
Mama,
she
called
at
outside.
dinner.
Mama, she called
I had a
outside.
strange dream.
I had a strange
dream.
An old woman was standing in our room.
She was
smiling at us.
She was smiling at us.
She said everything was going to change.
Elena kissed her daughter's hand.
It was just a dream.
It was just a dream.
He couldn't help it. Go back to sleep.
Papa's
Go
just
back.
tired.
Lily wasn't so sure.
The dream had felt
so real.
She knew
very
better.
real.
So very
Children
real.
outside.
Always know.
Outside.
The wind,
the hours
howled
around the mansion.
9
o'clock.
bent,
The trees
10
bent
and swayed.
11 o'clock.
Dark clouds
at 11:30.
And somewhere in
the
darkness,
sat
the
together.
old beggar
woman
stood
at the edge of the property.
We have to
staring
decide.
up at the house with her bright knowing eyes.
30 minutes.
Tomorrow would bring the choice.
Elena saw.
Tomorrow would
test
everything.
Victor and
Elena
believed
about
love.
One of them is less terrible.
And
really mattered in
quietly.
Tomorrow,
nothing
would ever be the same.
The next day
felt
strange
from the very beginning.
Elena looked
Victor
up at him
with
a terrible feeling in his stomach.
She knew which one he meant.
Shining.
We can start over.
Felt cold
and
dark.
We can rebuild.
The
Money
children
comes
were
and
unusually
goes.
quiet,
But family
even
is
Jasper,
forever.
who always complained
The
about
children
something,
will suffer.
just
Elena
sat still
and
they're
pushed
already
his
suffering.
food around his plate.
Victor replied.
Are you okay,
At
my
least
loves?
this way they can see.
Elena asked.
They can experience
Touching each
the world.
child's face
Really
gently.
experience
Something
it.
is coming,
Isn't
Mama,
that worth
Rose
any price?
whispered.
I can
Elena
feel it in
closed
the
her
air.
eyes.
Elena
Tears
and
streamed
Victor
down
looked at
her
each other
face.
with worried eyes.
At 11:55,
Children
they
sometimes
walked
knew
downstairs
things that
together,
grown-ups couldn't
holding
explain.
hands.
The
Especially
doorbell
children
rang
who
at
lived
exactly
in
midnight.
darkness.
Their
Old
other
woman
senses
were
were
stronger,
patient,
sharper,
and still
more alert.
Have you decided? She asked. Victor took a deep breath. His whole body was shaking. We have.
At
What would you give
exactly
up
noon,
second till
children
the doorbell
smiling
rang
for
again?
the very first time.
Victor's heart jumped
If you're
out
enjoying
in
the
his
story, please
He
like
gave
who
up
it would
all
share
and
and
Elena
subscribe
followed
to
him
this
to the
channel.
door.
We become
We
love
made
hearing
tell
from
her
you.
everything about
So
them.
tell us in the comments where you're watching from.
5 of us.
First,
Victor Stone
she didn't
believe
everything
stared
money
at them
could buy.
but
For a
now
long
hearing that
mansion
doorbell
sat
her
on
bright
top of
eyes
hill
seemed
like
to
Victor
look
opened
right
the door
made
to
of
the
glass
love.
and gold.
You're sure
Beggar
she
owned
owned
10
10
cars.
cars.
You
Trees
exactly
like
like
there's
and
no going back.
helicopter
Same
that
torn
could take him
sunrise
anywhere in the world.
Same
Everything
wild
you
but
owned
Victor
became
Stone was the
saddest
saddest
crooked
man
man
you
you
could ever meet.
But her eyes
His wife,
bank
Elena,
today
was
all of it. They
almost
seemed
have
to glow.
nothing but
She
the
wore
gold on her
fancy
dresses and diamond
rings.
said
Sure.
with sparkle.
Elena said
firmly,
I told
she
you I
never
never
smiled
smiled
anymore.
Who are you?
Children
Not
are
really.
worth Elena
more
did her
than
smiles
man.
were
Stepping
like
forward.
painted pictures.
The old
She was
woman
trying to
made
be brave
and
empty,
but her
then
voice
they
shook.
had 3
What do you
children.
want from us?
Triplets.
Bring them here.
The
Three
old
babies
woman looked
born
born
on
on
the
the
same
same
day.
day.
Elena ran
Same
upstairs.
bright eyes.
Their
Lily
hearts
Rose,
pounding
someone
and
just give you what you want.
They were 7 years old
Gently
now.
woke Lily
And they had
Rose
never
and
seen their
Jasper.
mother's face.
Victor
What's
gasped.
happening?
They had never
Elena
seen their father
smiled.
smile. Her
They
fingers
had never
never
seen the blue sky
Elena
or the
said,
green grass
though
or the
tears
golden
were
every
streaming
doctor
down
all
their
3
face.
children were
Come with us,
blind.
my
Their
darling.
eyes
Every
can't
morning,
fix.
come quickly.
Victor would wake up.
They
They
led
led
the
the 3
children
The old woman
downstairs.
said softly.
The
A
triplets
heavy
who
rock
reached
hand
into her
on his
small
chest.
walking carefully.
He would
and
walk down a
down
long hallway
to
to
feeling their
his
way
room.
through the
Each
dark
bottle
and
was made of
watching
blue
the
glass.
and
Lily
filled
with her
with
soft
old
brown
woman
hair
stood in the
seemed
doorway
to shimmer
across her
holding
pillow.
the 3 blue
Rose
glass.
with her tiny
The
hands
golden
liquid
liquid
inside
your
them
children.
flowed bright.
Jasper with his peaceful face
one
staring
bottle
toward
out
the
the
window
window
he couldn't see.
3
Kneel
drops
down
would
would
cry
cry
quietly.
sunrise
making
tomorrow.
sure no
They
one
were
heard
voices.
everything.
Elena
spent her
days
days
off
reading
reading
books to the children.
Kindlight.
She would describe everything around them.
Triplets,
The
knelt
sky
on
is
the
blue
slide
like
blue
the
like
ocean,
the
she
ocean.
would say.
Victor felt
the
tears.
flowers something
Something
important
was
was
strawberries.
The grass
The
Victor
grass
asked,
green,
why would you
fuzzy
smell that
blanket.
came out was like,
What do you
what
want
do
children
children
really
really
understand?
understand?
The old woman,
How could they imagine
She tilted Lily's head back.
Lily loved
Lily
to
always
touch
little
one.
one.
She would run her
She would
fingers
run
all
always
over the wall.
You must give up
some
3
drops
drops
in her right eye.
Something that means
Lily
a lot.
gasped. She would ask,
What do I look
Mommy,
like?
what do I look like? Elena would give you anything. You're beautiful. $10 million, my darling.
You have
$20 million.
Old
Woman,
woman,
name your price.
smile.
Don't touch mine.
The old woman shook her
Lily
head.
would shake her head.
I don't want your money.
I don't know what sunshine.
I don't know what
3 drops
sunshine
in each eye. You have
too much
Rose
of it.
made a
Rose
small
was
with
quiet
bright
mouth.
She would
hurt.
sit by
She
the
would
window,
sit by the window
crying,
feeling the warmth.
Find
Sun
then
on
Jasper
Jasper.
on her face.
Elena
Some pride
cried
she
out.
would
Sometimes
cry without
she
making cry without making
old
screams
woman
about
tears
how
would just
unfair life rolled down just rolled down drops like Jasper. All three children must thank her. He would throw his toys wisely. Not fair. Their eyes were not change your mind. Why can't I Nobody moved. Victor. Nobody breathed. Elena held hands. Victor had taken a holiday to every doctor in the world. Choice number one. They flew to America. Give up your sight. To Japan, to Switzerland, to Germany. The best eye doctors examine the mind of their children. Victor asked, you live in darkness. Every doctor says the same thing. What's Elena made sorry, Mr. Stone. Like there's no cure. Your children number two. Their eyes didn't correctly. You give up all your mind. No surgery can fix every no medicine, every car. Her eyelids really sorry. Like you become millions of dollars. You and your children all live on the streets for the first time in her 7 years. Your children will see the world around them. She looked around and nothing worked. Nothing changed. Always children remained in darkness. Choice number three. Evening in December. Victor sat alone, staring at his living room. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered in decorations. Not even never see the child. He held a glass. Never stared at nothing. I would give it all away. He was children over the empty room. Every dollar, every house, every car. You can't ask everything. To see them look at me. Just looked at her hand. Just once. The doorbell rang. Victor frowned. It was 8 o'clock. I didn't say then who would visit at this hour. The security guards were just starting to always require. He walked to the door. An old woman has to be another way. Victor wore torn. Something else hung on her. There's no other way. He looked nice. The old woman's gray hair was messy. Opened his eyes. Her face was covered in wrinkles, like the crumpled piece of paper. But then he saw the children with crooked chandelier hanging above them. She placed the 3 blue bottles on the door. The old woman said the grand staircase. I'm so everything and hungry. Would you spare some food? Maybe an old come back at midnight. Victor felt the children stood up. How did this woman get turned and walked they looked at why was she bother in heaven? Didn't she know and in a way go away. After 7 years at dark, I'll call someone to give you money. Elena was just leave. They started to window. He started to close the door. But it wasn't night in the doorway. The bottles were real. Her eyes swaying when Victor picked them so pretty. Suddenly looked very sharp. Very the rest of the day, right like through Victor, you have Elena, Victor, Elena, they moved through the Victor froze. Victor froze. The children asked great heart began, but how to hear children, how they tell their baby to remember impossible price, horrible choice. You would give anything price, you would give anything to change that. Elena finally said, my children, how do you know about Victor's voice? Victor's voice. Who are you? So we become old woman's smile. Old woman smiles. But then I know many things. I know many things. I know your heart is for your heart. I know you cry alone at I know you cry alone. I know you blame yourself. I know you blame yourself fading away. Victor felt her gray hair was turning dark. Someone had dumped ice water down all those. What do you want? But they'll have to take care of us. Nothing tonight. Flowing dress. Nothing tonight. They'll have to go. Turn to leave. Help us. She turned to leave. They're just children. Stick tapping on the ground. You don't lose anything. And when I do, and when I bring you a choice, I'll bring you a choice. Very difficult choice seemed impossible. Elena asked, becoming blind myself. What are you talking about? But also when the old woman never seeing their children. She moved slowly down her long driveway, stepped closer, shadows stretching. I am a guard stretching behind her, and still happy. Victor watched her. Victor watched what really mattered. The children would suffer. His hands were shaking. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. His mind was racing. That woman. She gestured. How did she know about his children? How did she know about his children? All the choice giving us all this could possibly. That wasn't even willing to give it all. That was not for your own benefit. And turned his children. Elena asked him. Elena asked him it all. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. We just blamed this strange beggar woman. Our children. How could he explain how weird? But there's something to give up our money. Victor reminded you don't have to give up anything every day. Something scary. Something easier old way of thinking. Something that would for 7 years. Rose's children believed that in money. Children's questions woke up from a dream. You spent Mama. She called out Mama. But I had a strange dream. I had a strange dream. An old woman was standing in our room. She was smiling at us. She was smiling at us. She said everything was going to change. Elena kissed her daughter's hand. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. Couldn't help it. Go back to sleep. Go back. Lily wasn't so sure. The dream had felt so real. She knew better. So very real. Always outside. The wind, the hours called around the mansion. 9 o'clock. The trees bent and swayed. 11 o'clock. Dark clouds at 11:30. And somewhere in the darkness, the old beggar woman holding to the edge of the property. We have to decide. Staring up at the house with her bright knowing eyes. 30 minutes. Tomorrow would bring the choice. Elena saw. Tomorrow would test everything Victor and Elena believed. about love, sacrifice.
One of them is less
and
terrible.
what really mattered in
quietly.
Tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same. The next day felt strange from the very beginning. Elena looked up at him with a terrible feeling in his stomach. She knew which one he meant. We can start over. Felt cold and dark. We can rebuild. The children were unusually quiet, but family is forever. Who always complained about children will suffer. Just Elena sat still, and they're already suffering. Around his plate. Victor replied, "Are you okay, At least this way, they can see." Elena asked, "They can experience each child's face, really experience something is coming. Isn't that worth Rose any price?" Whispered. I can feel it in her eyes. Elena and Victor looked at each other with worried eyes. At 11:55, children sometimes walked downstairs together, grown-ups couldn't explain. The doorbell rang at exactly midnight. Their old other senses were stronger, patient, sharper, and still more alert. "Have you decided?" she asked. Victor took a deep breath. His whole body was shaking. "We have." Still looking out the window. Victor's heart jumped. You're enjoying the story. Please give up with share and Elena's family is always there. We began made hearing her everything. So you told me comments where you're watching 5 first. Victor Stone told everything stared at them. But now his mansion is her bright eyes like Victor opened Elena fell on her knees. You're sure Beggar owns 10 cars. Once you choose exactly like there's no going back. Same torn sunrise anywhere. Guardian wild. But Victor Stone was the same privileged man you could ever use your world. Why bank Elena today. Remember this, they almost remember what you were willing on your dresses and diamond rings. Elena said firmly. I told you I never smiled anymore. She looked at children really. Elena never smiled, stepping other children. Old woman toward the doctors, but her voice had be gentle. What do you want from us? Bring them here. The old lady Victor and Elena ran unable to bright eyes. Their Lily Rose, someone finally. They were 7 years old. Guardian began. They had never seen their mother's face. What's happened? They had never seen their children will see clearly now. They had never seen blue sky or the green grass. Make sure you go to every doctor and all 3 children were come with vanished. Their eyes every morning. Come quickly. Victor would wake up with the giant 3 blue bottles of seal. The triplets reached into her small walking away. He would walk down a long hallway, feeling their way through the dark bottles, stood glass. Lily was soft brown, trying to understand across her, holding the 3 blue bottles with her tiny gold medically called your children. Jasper hummed peaceful face. One bottle out the window. He couldn't see. 3 dropped down. Would cry. Quiet sunrise. Making sure no one was voice their arms. Elena sounded soft. They stood together. She would describe everything around them. Every love. The sky is blue like the ocean. Each felt the flowers loving you more than anything in the grass. Old woman, green. Why would you smell that came out? What do you want to smell? Really understand. The old woman smiled. How much they love her face tilted in her eyes. Lily loved always stone family. She would run all the way through the house. You must give up some children's touch. Something that Lily would ask. What do I look like? Elena would look outside. You're beautiful. $10 million, darling. You have $20 million. Name your smile on the balcony. Old woman, but Lily would shake her head. I don't want her money. I don't know what sunshine. I don't know what sunshine each eye. You have roses made all women. She would sit by the window feeling the warmth. Finally, then Jasper. Elena, for the first time, cried without voice. The old woman's tears would just roll down her cheeks. 3 drops in each eye, and Elena was angry. He would throw his foundation, toys, wise children, their eyes. Why can't I see Victor? Nobody breathed. Elena held his hand. Victor had taken their money away to every doctor. Every choice number 1. They flew to America and to Japan, to Japan, to Switzerland, to Germany. Victor and Diana would examine their children. She was the best thing he saw. Live in darkness. Every doctor said all 3 children. Elena made a sorry stone. Like there's no cure. Your children number 2. Their eyes didn't conform. You give up all your money. No surgery. No medicine. Every car. Her eyelids everything. Like you become $4 million. You and your children live on the streets. For the first time in 7 years. But you children even go around magic cure. She looked around and nothing worked. Nothing worked. Nothing ever. Always children remained dark. Never forget it. Mama Victor sat alone, staring at Elena's living room. The Christmas tree stood in trees, covered in decorations. I will never say you should have held a glass. Never stared at nothing. I would give it all away. He was children so beautiful. The empty room. Every dollar. Every house. Every car. You can't ask everything. Just to see them look at me. She looked at her hand just once. The doorbell rang. Victor friend. It was 8 o'clock. I didn't say then who would visit at this hour. Security guard at the were
front
just
gate.
started to
Always
burst.
requires
He walked to the door and opened it. An old woman stood on another doorstep. Victor wore torn, dirty clothes on her thin body. No other way. You look nice when you smile. Her gray hair was messy. He opened his eyes. Her face was covered in wrinkles, like the crumpled paper. But then he saw the crooked chandelier hanging above them. She was packaging the light. Three blue bottles on the doorstep. The old woman said the grand staircase. I'm old and hungry. Would you spare some food? Maybe an old come back at midnight. Victor felt the children stood up. How did this woman get turned and walked away? They looked at why would she bother heaven? Didn't she know he had in a way frozen? Go away. After 7 years of darkness, I'll call someone to give you money. Elena would just leave. They started to window. He started to close the door, but it wasn't a night in the doorway. The bottles were real. Her eyes swaying. Her eyes seemed when Victor picked them up, so pretty. Suddenly looked very sharp. Very everything is day, right like through Victor, you have Victor, children, Elena, they knew each other, she said, Victor froze. Victor froze. The children asked what his heart began, but how could they read children who live in darkness? They tell their baby Victor remembered possible price, horrible choice. You would give anything to change that. Anything to change that. Elena told me about my children. How do you know about Victor's back into Victor's voice? Who are you? So we become one old woman smiles. The old woman smiles. But then we can't see that. I know many things. I know many things. I know your heart is broken. I know your heart. I know you cry alone at night. I know you cry. I know you blame yourself. I know you blame yourself. Victor felt her gray hair was turning dark. Someone had dumped ice water down clothes. What do you want? But they'll have to take care of us. Nothing tonight. Nothing tonight. They'll have to turn to leave. Help us. She turned to leave. They're just children. Stick tapping on the ground. I'll come back tomorrow. And when I do, I'll bring you a choice. I'll bring you a choice. Very difficult choice seemed impossible. Elena called out. Becoming blind themselves seemed. What are you talking about? But also the old woman kept seeing their children. She moved slowly down her long driveway. Down the long driveway. I am a guard stretching behind her and still have Victor watched her disappear. They would still watch what really mattered. The children would suffer. His hands would shake. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. His mind was racing. That woman. She gestured with that woman. How did she know about his children? How did she know about his children? Well, giving up all that she possibly had. That wasn't even willing to give it all up. That was not for your own benefit. He turned his back and turned into Elena asked him. Elena choose it all. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. We just blamed how Victor couldn't believe our children. How could he explain the weird? But there's something to give up our money. Victor reminded you don't have to give up anything every day. Something scary. Something change. Something that would for 7 years. Rose's children believed down the money. Children's questions about things. You spent millions Mama, she called out dinner. Mama, but I had a strange dream. I had a strange dream. An old woman was standing in a room, smiling at us. She was smiling at us. She said everything was going to change. Elena kissed her daughter's hand. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. He couldn't help it. Go back to sleep. Go back. But Lily wasn't so sure. The dream had felt so real. She knew very real. So very children real. Always outside. The wind, the hours ticked around the mansion. 9 o'clock, the trees bent and swayed. 11 o'clock, dark clouds at 11:30, and somewhere in the darkness, the old beggar woman stood at the edge of the property. We have to decide. Staring up at the house with her bright, knowing eyes. 30 minutes. Tomorrow would bring the choice. Elena saw. Tomorrow would test everything. Victor and Elena believed about love. One of them is less terrible. Really mattered quietly. Tomorrow, none of them would ever be the same. The next day felt strange from the very beginning. Elena looked up at him with a terrible feeling in his stomach. She knew which one he meant. We can start over. Felt cold and dark. We can rebuild. The children were unusually quiet, but family is forever. Who always complained about something. The children will suffer. Just Elena still, and they're already suffering around his plate. Victor replied, "Are you okay, At least this way, they can see." Elena asked, "They can experience each child's face really experience something is coming. Isn't that worth any price?" Rose whispered. I can feel it closed her eyes. Elena and Victor looked at each other with worried eyes. At 11:55, children sometimes walked downstairs together, grown-ups couldn't explain. The doorbell rang at exactly midnight. The old woman's senses were stronger, patient, sharper, and still more alert. "Have you decided?" she asked. Victor took a deep breath. His whole body was shaking. "We have."